All right, I'll call this meeting to order. This is the meeting for the Ordinance Committee for August 26, 2021. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Harris, Mr. Talbert.
Got to unmute them.
I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Keene. I see you. And Mr. Girlinghouse.
Here. Okay, so, well, I was going to explain earlier, but I just waited till the meeting started. As it works out, guys, we're against the wall here with time. So what we're going to do is we're going to do A and we're going to defer B. Just go ahead and say it ahead of time. So is that okay? Everybody shake your head. We'll get to it at the time, but
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do tonight because the way the meeting got scheduled.
Okay. So item A is river safety. Now I know we all should have gotten some recommendations from the parish president or just a statement. It's pretty lengthy. Have y'all all read it? I guess I should read it out loud, correct? You think? So let me get to it here.
Hey, and Tracy, I did attach the meeting packet in the chat for anyone that wants to view it, which is what you're about to read as well.
Okay. So I'm going to try to be pretty quick about this because this will eat up some time here, but so safety tips for tubing. The only thing you need for river floating is something to float on in a flowing river. But there are several things that we can bring along that make your float more enjoyable. Here are some accessories we recommend. Waterproof bag for valuables like cell phone, wallet, or camera. Type 3 life jacket for river tubing. Type 3 life jacket will keep you upright, which is very helpful in flowing river. Most drowning accidents occur even when life vests are available nearby. Victims choose not to wear them because they know how to swim. Here are some frightening statistics why you should always use a life vest. The majority of people who drown are able swimmers. Most drownings happen in inland waters. Only 10% happen out at sea. Of all the drowning fatalities that happen, 85% of the victims do not wear a life vest, a PFD. A child can drown in 20 seconds. A paddle helps you navigate unpredictable currents and can be used with any floatable tube. Use the buddy systems and do not go tubing alone. Don't ever go tubing alone, and go even further by adding a third person to be outside of the water and know where you are at all times. Use ropes or ties to link the raft or river tubes with the rest of the rafts in your group. Then they won't float away from each other. Water shoes, flip-flops are challenging to wield in a river bottom. Water shoes will keep your feet safe and allow you to worry about sharp objects. Don't drink or do drugs before tubing. Alcohol quickens your risk of hypothermia, heat stroke, and slows down your response in case of an emergency. Do the drinking after you're done tubing. Avoid high-level streams. Do not go into rivers where they're running high or near full. These rivers are very dangerous. Be weather alert. Stay up to date with current weather conditions as well as stream conditions for the area that you're tubing. Know how to swim. You really should know how to swim in case you flip over. A life vest is not your only option to stay afloat. Pick your river. The most important thing about that determines a river's tubability is water level and flow rate. Too high and the current will be moving too fast for tubing to be safe. If the flow rate is too low, you may end up walking instead of drifting and stepping on exposed rocks. Flow rate guidelines vary depending on the specific river, so do an online search of your destination beforehand. See our more detailed tip below. You'll also need river access, whether by a tour company or public access point, to launch your tube if you're going on your own. Check the conditions, and we're not talking about cloud versus sun. Water conditions are key. Rivers rivers that are great for tubing one day can be dangerous the next. Even if it's a gorgeous sunny day, a recent heavy rainfall can mean the river is too deep to tube, or in a dry day, it can mean it's too shallow. This is not This is not information you want to find out after your crew arrives at the launch spot. Most tubing outfitters' websites update rivers conditions daily, often with a color-coded key that tells you whether the tubing that day is open to everyone, strong swimmers only, or closed entirely. Or you can always call an outfitter to confirm conditions. You can do this even if you're not planning to rent from that particular company, full service or do it yourself. Going with tubing outfitter means everything is taken care of for you, including the tube rental and the shuttle to the launch point. Sometimes they even offer extra rentals for like coolers and sunglasses. Know the rules. As our life jackets required for the river, sometimes this answer can depend on the river conditions. Is drinking allowed? Often glass or styrofoam containers are prohibited. Look up the rules even before embarking on your trip, and you're in the know. Nothing derails a fun afternoon of tubing faster than running with the local law enforcement. That was per the parish president's office. Any comments from the council? Okay, I know we have some people in the audience want to have the floor. Anyone from the floor like to speak? Ms. Hilliard?
Yes, I'm kind of confused. First of all, I don't understand what you're reading. Where did it come from? Apparently it's something that, what is it?
This is something that that came from the parish president's office. We were just reading it to open the meeting. This is something that he wanted to put out and have it put out in the public forum. So that's what we're doing right now.
For what? What is the purpose of putting that out? It's actually information he copied from the internet. So what's the point in putting that out? I'm just saying that that's what the parish president put out. If you want to know why he put it out, you'd have to ask the parish president.
Is this something that he is putting forward as sort of a resolution?
Who's speaking?
I'm sorry, this is Kim Hilliard Bangura. I am Keith's twin sister. So I'm asking for a point of clarification. Is the parish president putting that out to the council as these are things we need to put in place, make some statement that's inclusive of those things? That's what I'm trying to find.
I guess,
simply an
I
opening?
would have to go on the assumption it didn't come with an explanation. I think he was just saying this is the administration stance.
That these need to be okay.
That would be my assumption. That
Okay.
You know.
And all of those things are agreeable. I have read extensively about, I've never river tubed. I've traveled, the world, have not river tubed, have whitewater rafted, have done some of those things. So I myself had to educate myself on this whole river tubing idea and learned quickly how extremely dangerous it is. And yes, I've read so many of the same things that the parish president sent as an opening. Yes. And I agree with all of those things. But I'm wondering, maybe I'm just sort of jumping the gun and wondering if, based on that information, are we here to talk about what kind of things that the parish want to put in place that are definite stipulations to continuing to run this that can be, I think, a great operation? But that's what I'm curious about. And maybe we've only been 5 minutes into the meeting and haven't heard more. So maybe
I think that's the case. I'm sorry, is it Miss Bangura?
Yes, Bangura is fine. Yes.
I didn't want to get it wrong.
No, that's all right.
The parish president released that to us, and that's why I was just kind of breezing through it real fast.
Okay.
And then I opened the discussion to the council and then to the floor. So just for the sake of being expedient, because we are up against the clock today because of the meeting, is there any other comments on what was released by the parish president? Okay.
Those are so straightforward. I mean, they are inarguably
I agree.
very, very straightforward. I'm here to hear what is important to you all as a community, as it relates to safety with this tubing operation. I mean, it must hit someone the same way as it hits, you know, I mean, maybe not the way it hits me as a family person who's lost a loved one. We can't change that, but I'm curious about, I want to hear from other councilmen about what do you think you can put forward for safety? Because I have a list of concerns. I have all those things that you listed. Needs to be a type 3 vest, check, and we need to see if that's what's in place. But not any tube is fair to put on a river, because the river is exceptionally dangerous, and it does. I mean, I think his thing read, you just put any tube. Not any tube works. It has to be industrial. And some of my questions would be, who is monitoring what is happening on this river? I mean, this is a river that runs through more than one community, I'm not sure if it runs through more than one parish, but there's Central, there's Livingston Parish. They might be 2 different parishes. This is important because when there is an emergency, then your emergency people are sent to this place, but everybody's hands off and hands are tied when it comes to this tubing operation. I don't know, do we have a representative from the tubing company here tonight? Because I'm just curious about what do you think about safety? I mean, I think that there should be definite issues related to young people being placed on this river. I have read years back of reviews of this tubing and the incidents and the accidents and the near fatalities and the people lost for hours. I've read extensively on that. And I've also read some of your community people who have also quietly expressed frustration. I have so many concerns. I mean, I don't live in Louisiana. I do own a home in Louisiana, so I do pay taxes there. I may not pay taxes into Livingston, but some people, Livingston Parish, but some people do. And I wonder how the parish can stand and say our hands are tied as it relates to this organization, but yet we supply the medical help and that kind of stuff. So those are 2 things that are interesting that you should want to not have to do. So there should be safety measures that are bigger as it relates to children getting on this river. There should be definite, vests shouldn't be optional. Where should vests be optional on a river? That's something that's easy, that's soft. I mean, I think if this operation is feeding the community by way of taxes, et cetera, some of these things aren't harsh, they're soft. Children should not be able to get on this river without vests. No one should get on that river in a tube without having had some instructional video. I don't think that it is fair that people blindly sign a waiver, Extra 5 minutes is to have one of their workers go through some video, and in good faith, everybody steps up and signs. And I say this and I stress this because some of the commentary that I've read or even heard from the parish president shamefully, that these people are adults and they get on the river. Wow. They come and they support and supply that community, because people who are really having drowning and stuff are people who are less familiar with that, coming from Texas and traveling to that spot for a fun day. So I think, that coy, callous comment has pained me. I'm wondering and I'm hoping that you all are feeling your community should be visited. I think it is beautiful. I love it down there. But people coming there should also feel a sense of safety. And when they've been instructed on the dangers of that river, and then they sign the waiver and hop on that river and fall off or get off or drink, then you all are qualified to say, why were you there doing what you were doing? Because you signed. So I'm hopeful that you all are going to really consider looking at some real safety stuff, and everything does not have to be hard or harsh to tiki tubing. There can be some things that are softer, but you need to make an effort.
I think that was very well put, Miss Bangura.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you on most of those things in principle. I think it's important to note that, a lot of people go tubing that has nothing to do with tiki tubing. And I do think there should be a standard for what kind of tube goes on the river. And I do think at some point, and we'll have to relate it to river. I have been tubing before. And what he said is true. There are times when the river is just so low, you can't, you can't do anything. You get to walk.
Right.
But, I think that there should be, and just me speaking, there should be a vest requirement. Especially.
Let me interject,
Ma'am,
Mr. Tracy.
hang on a second.
Also,
hang on a second, please. I think there should be a vest requirement at the minimum at certain heights if the river is dangerous. I think that there should be some kind of mechanism in place to make sure that the people that are signing this waiver have an understanding of what they're signing. And I don't know, it could be adequate. I have no clue. I haven't been out to see. Or it could be inadequate. It could be willy-nilly. It could be, exceptionally adequate. I don't know. I know
Sir,
that
the river is dangerous.
It is dangerous indeed. But
and
I think, ma'am, listen. I think that our job, and this is my opinion, as leaders, is to make sure people are aware of the dangers, and if they're going to do that, we place laws, we put laws in effect that makes it safer. But I don't think we should just out and out stop it. Or we could say if it's this high, there's no tubing. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't think we should just out and out stop the business.
Stopping hasn't come out of my mouth at all. That is a part of your community. The water, the river, the hunting, all of that stuff is a part of the community. So stopping it has never crossed my lips. And even as I speak to my sister-in-law, I've said to her, stopping I'm not sure that seems so reasonable. So I'm not sure we may not speak the same language on that. But what I do think is reasonable, like you said people need to fully understand. I am going to assert that waiver that is signed before people ever hit Louisiana, because they print it before they come, I am willing to stand firm on the fact that is inadequate. It is inadequate because I've blindly signed some things when I'm water rafting and doing something, but and you don't pay the attention, you don't give the respect to that document that you should give until you hear one of those customer service representatives or even a video. I mean, whitewater rafting, you don't get on that water before you look at yes, Mr. Morris Keene, he's shaking his head. He agrees with that. You don't get on the water before, and that's small. That's not big. That is not asking a lot of tiki tubing to say, run a video, and then they sign. And when they sign, everybody in this room says, hey, you signed it. We educated you. I think that is as fair gets. That is not taking money out of Tiki Tubin's pocket unless there are families who turn around. But I also think that the other thing you mentioned, the height of the water, yes, it's no good if it's only a foot. You're not going to float down the river. You're not going to gain the experience that you showed up for. I believe and I agree in that. But I think when the water is too high, in fairness, it should be stated. I listened to one of the people who was rescued weeks after my brother's death. One of the things he said, and he wasn't a person that looked like me. He came from Texas or somewhere. He said one of the things that was said to him was inadequate and false. And so that's my other grief and maybe beef with Tiki Tubing. I mean, if you educate the people when they come and then they sign, you've done your job. If you also include, because I think you all should want some inclusions about the river. The river, 4 feet, it's not 4 feet everywhere. We all know that. In fact, I've been capable of digging to find that a meat river is considered extra dangerous and that it can be 12 feet in many places. So I think what's the harm? What is the harm in really saying to people and putting some signs around that speaks of the depth of this thing? So I mean, I'm just saying these are just some basic things that definitely are important to me. Closing Tiki Tubing, what not? You know, I won't go there, but somebody will. But
well, of course, and we're going to have to pick this up again, Ms. Begura, because I know they have an ordinance, they have a finance committee meeting at 3:55, right, Mr. Ard?
Tracy.
Yes.
You think that we can have we think we can have a Zoom meeting next Tuesday at like 6 o'clock to give this thing some adequate time? And we talked about these safety tips for tubing as a guideline for a possible ordinance.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I know because of certain things that have happened with respect to COVID, we've kind of been behind the 8 ball in a couple of things, but I'd like to see us probably call a meeting next Tuesday. I know it's off schedule from what we normally do.
No, we can do that.
Like 6, and then and if these are safety tips that tend to be recommended by experts, then possibly we need to figure out how to coordinate these safety tips into an ordinance so that everybody's following a similar guideline. There's some standard set for it. And I think the 4 councilmen on the ordinance committee ought to strive to figure out what within these guidelines that we think we can implement and then have enforced. And we need to look at those guidelines. Look, there's no doubt river conditions are a serious consideration that need to be part of the process.
Yes.
How we make those evaluations, I have absolutely no idea because I'm not, proficient in that stuff. I mean,
some of it is common sense.
Mr. Gerald, you probably spent way more time on the river than I have. You know what I'm saying? And you might have some recommendations along those guidelines. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that I think that we need to strive.
Mr. Talbot, let me cut you off here. I'm sorry, because we are short. Yes, I agree. We'll pick this up Tuesday, let's say 6. We'll have a Zoom meeting and we'll singularly put that on the agenda for Tuesday. And we won't be against the wall on anything. So we can talk.
I agree with you, Mr. Browning.
We can go at length, but I do look. Some things we need to step in and figure out how to make changes that are, that make things safer on the river. At the same time, doesn't impinge on people's rights as they do these things. And I think there's a middle ground we can reach on this. But anyway, I know it's 3:55. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Talbert,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Harris. All in favor, say aye.
Nah.